every action, every force, every impulsion, there is an opposite. A push is met with resistance, a ball thrown into the air is counteracted by gravity, a radical new idea is met with fundamentalist ideologies. In Asalka, home of the 8 living gods and the mightiest empire of the modern age, the rising light of civilization is countered, squashed, repressed by the darkness beyond humanity's light and the creatures within that darkness. In the darkness beyond the boundaries of civilization, ancient beasts and monsters stalk the shadows of the wilderness, asserting their dominion over the land beyond humanity's grasp, leaping out of the shadows to strike down the luckless man or woman who grew complacent, who allowed the shadows to catch up to them. Throughout the 1,000-year history of the Asalkan Empire, the beast problem has been one of the most consistent and tenacious threats faced by humanity and their divine masters. There is some escape for those who know where to find it. Obviously, the populace within the walls of Asalka's cities and towns are sheltered from the murderous creatures in the shadows. But in an agricultural-dependent society like Asalka, any threat to the well-being of the rural population is a threat to the urbanized population as well. Any military attempt to purge the monstrous population of a region has met with almost laughable failure. The wilderness of Asalka is unforgiving in the extreme, and any force attempting to exterminate a monster population has come back in tatters, if they come back at all. But if the monstrous population of the continent cannot be expunged, there has to be some way of keeping the rural fringes safe, some system that can keep the monsters of the night in check. In Asalka, that system takes the form of the Hunts. Maintained by every lord and god of the empire, Hunts have proven to be the most effective means of managing the monster population on a regional level. The tradition of monster hunting is older than the gods themselves, having its origins in the old world, when the unseen gods were still alive. Most huntsmen will trace their origin back to the age of monsters and the war against Shatawan, the lord of Claw and Fang, the king of beasts. But that is a subject for another day. The hunting of monsters has come a very long way from its roots. No longer is the act performed by a lone warrior with a very big sword and a very short life expectancy. Hunting has grown and evolved into the form which pervades Asalka today. To hunt a monster now, the beast is pursued by a pack of hounds, guided and directed by a huntsman, with the assistance of 1 or 2 apprentices, known in the trade as blooders. The hounds run the beast by scent, baying as they go to drive the monster away from them, forcing it to run itself into a state of exhaustion before it finally confronts its human pursuers. This is extremely important, as a monster who is not pushed to the point of fatigue will outmatch even the most skilled warrior. Even fatigued, however, most monsters of the Asalkan wilderness are terrifyingly dangerous and more than a match for most humans. A slow huntsman has a short life expectancy. A subpar huntsman has a non-existent one. When the monster is brought to exhaustion, the hounds will be halted in their pursuit, and the monster will be confronted by the huntsman, who has trained for years in the skill of combating beasts. Armed with the weapon best suited for the job, the huntsman will contest himself against the monster, but he will not do this alone, instead being assisted by the hunt's blackguard. The blackguard is a kind of secondary huntsman, a warrior who commands a much smaller pack of hounds called bolters. Unlike the huntsman's hounds, bolters are trained to fight monsters alongside the huntsman and blackguard, and are as much a weapon as any armament the blackguard might carry. Additionally, should a monster need to be hobbled before it will turn back to face the pursuers, a bolter might be deployed to sprint after the beast, hobbling it on the run so that the huntsman will be able to bring the beast to bear. Throughout a hunt, situations might arise which ordinary men and women, such as a huntsman or a blackguard, might not be able to overcome. This is especially true at the end, during the slaying of a beast, when even a fatigued monster is still an overwhelmingly deadly force. In such situations, magic is employed by the Thrasher, the third member of every Hunt's trinity. The last remnant of an ancient druidic tradition, Thrashers are men and women who have formed a soul bond with a Fey spirit, and draw upon the power of that bond to perform magical acts. Sometimes a monster will need to be stunned, sometimes a buffeting wind is needed to provide a distraction during a fight, or perhaps the earth itself can be deployed as a weapon. Whatever the magic needed, it is the responsibility of the Thrasher to ensure that the proper act is done at the right place and at the right time. A miscalculation on the Thrasher's part could result in a Huntsman not getting the protection he needs, a monster not being staggered when required, a blackguard not seeing a vulnerable spot in a monster's armor. Worse, if the Thrasher's error is truly egregious, the magical effect could target a human instead of the beast. The result of such a mishap is usually death, and not for the monster. Hunts have become institutional across Asalka. Each of the living gods maintain their own hunt, and the gods have decreed that hunts are to be maintained by each High Lord, Lord, and Count in the Empire to preserve and protect the region within their immediate control. If a lord fails to maintain his hunt or employs a hunt that underperforms, his land will quickly be overrun with monsters, as his people will be unable to work the fields without being slaughtered. As such, failure to maintain a hunt is taken very seriously by the gods, and running a hunt poorly is grounds for removal from the ranks of nobility. Should that happen, a lesser line will usually be promoted into the vacant position, one who might ensure that their hunt is handled properly. It might be impossible to overstate the threat posed by the monstrous population of Asalka. This is not a land that wants or accepts humanity, and although the human population has been able to carve out a niche of civilization across the continent still tries to push back at them. Asalka is a nation of points of light, tiny slivers of civilization with a lurking darkness in between. And at the first slip, the first sign of weakness, that darkness will consume the civilized light and all those within it. It is only the diligent, endless, and often fatal work of the hounds and the hunters that keeps the darkness at bay.